sciences will be a top investment priority for this government and help us to create the good, high-quality jobs that we want in the area?
My honourable friend has my absolute assurance that backing our brilliant life sciences sector, our universities and companies is a top priority of this government. Alongside our support for the Swansea Bay City deal, which, as she says, includes life sciences and wellbeing, we have a £520 million life sciences innovative manufacturing fund, which is currently open for bids across all of the 4 nations, and I know she will be championing her brilliant businesses a part of this support.
Alan Mack. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The patent box and full capital expensing are Conservative policies introduced to back the life sciences sector. They're absolutely vital to the country's future long-term prosperity. Will the Secretary of State commit to protecting these policies at the budget from a Chancellor desperate to fix the public finances with short-term cuts and fixes?
I absolutely support all measures that back that innovation, and I know that that is something, despite what the honourable gentleman says, that the Chancellor wants to do too. It is the innovators and the entrepreneurs and businesses who create jobs and growth in this country, and we're determined to do even more, particularly in these crucial sectors for the future.
Good chance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I welcome the government's new strategy on replacing animals in science, which was published yesterday. So will the Secretary of State commit to enshrining the targets contained within the strategy in law so industry, campaigners and the wider public have the certainty that they need, that this government will move as fast as possible to end this unnecessary animal testing? I'm very proud that we have published this strategy, delivering on one of our crucial manifesto commitments, and the honourable lady can rest assured patience is not one of my greatest virtues, and I want to see this implemented and delivered as quickly as possible.
Mr.
Speaker, thank you. I'm chair of the All-Party Group for Life Sciences, so know only too well that what an industry that has hitherto been a jewel in our crown has been struggling to justify further investment in our economy. So could I just press the Secretary of State further on her answer to my right honourable friend, my honourable friend from Havant? Could she just reassure the House that she has put a specific, ambitious, vigorous proposal into the Treasury in advance of the budget that recognises that the life sciences industry is taking more risk than other kind of investors?
Patience may not be my middle name, but specific, vigorous and ambitious, hopefully, are things that I consider part of my character. We are determined. There is no route to future growth in this country without science and technology, and particularly life sciences at the core. Myself and the Minister for Science in the other place, Sir Patrick Vallance, are straining every sinew. There are challenges in our life sciences sector, but we are determined to back those world-leading companies for British patients and for the British economy.
Number 6, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me assure the honourable member that we are taking tough action against drug dealing both offline and online. There is now a strong new duty under the Online Safety Act to prevent illegal activity, including drug dealing as well. Ofcom has a duty to enforce that. We will continue to make sure that it has the full backing to do so.
Drug dealing is absolutely rampant on social media. The Minister might be aware of the campaign that I lead together with the University of Bath on spice spike rapes in school and the terrible harm it's causing. Yet we're getting increasingly frustrated that Ofcom does not use its power from the Online Safety Act to actually hold social media companies to account. Will he meet with me to discuss this problem with Ofcom and make sure that they ensure that we're keeping particularly young people safe online?
Well, look, I think the honourable member's campaign has been noticed, and I'm very happy to meet with her to discuss how we can work together in making sure the enforcement is robust on this question.
Christopher Vince.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his previous answer. Sadly, the glamorisation of drug taking on TV isn't a new phenomenon, but I particularly worry about the nature of the internet and social media and the short clips people watch, where the true consequences of drug taking or drug culture isn't really shown properly. So can I ask what the Minister can do to use the internet and social media for good to actually show young people in my constituency of Harlow the dangers of drug taking and drug culture?
Well, look, my honourable friend is a master of short clips in the chamber, and so I will take both his skill but also his sincerity on this question to heart, and work with him to ensure that we are robustly enforcing the duties that are already placed on Ofcom under the Online Safety Act.
Mayor Ellis.
Number 7, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Britain's technological revolution is going to ensure working people see good jobs and local prosperity wherever they live, wherever they call home, right across the country. A record £86 billion in R&D investment will spread that opportunity in every region from Birmingham to Belfast, and with UKRI's £500 million Local Innovations Partnership Fund, we are going to make sure local leaders turn ideas into the industries of the future.
Mayor Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The £54 million UKRI Global Talent Fund, which was designed to attract and retain international research talent, has excluded all northern universities from its funding. UKRI waived eligibility criteria to ensure devolved nations receive some of the funding, but meanwhile Lancaster University, a huge driver in the economic growth of Lancashire and North West, and which reached the highest eligibility criteria, received none. Will he commit to the Northern Powerhouse Partnership's recommendation for UKRI funding, including greater transparency of data and methodology used in UKRI assessments, and including institutional size and their role within regions' economy when making future decisions for UKRI funding?
Mr. Speaker, let me assure my honourable friend that this government is committed to ensuring that every region benefits from the UK's world-leading research base. That is exactly why we are backing, in particular, the initiative at Lancaster University with £4.9 million on its cyber-focused project, ensuring that the region's cyber sector grows. And can I just say that with the honourable friend's expertise in digital innovation and her strong advocacy for the North West, we will continue to make sure funding for the North West and R&D is on the up.
The Minister will know that Harper Adams University is a world-leading research institution. He'll also be aware of the university's Agritech Research Centre. So can I invite him, on behalf of the Vice-Chancellor, to visit the university, to look at the excellent work around robotics and AI and sustainable farming, particularly around eco-farming and increasing productivity, but in a way that is sustainable?
Well, that's a very easy yes, combining my interest in agriculture and technology, so I will take the honourable member up on the offer.
We come to Topicals. Josh Pentingsley.
Number 1.
So, stay.
If I may briefly, Mr. Speaker, this government is determined to seize the opportunities that new technology brings. But in order to do that, we must protect our children online and protect our critical national infrastructure from technological threats too. That's why today we're tabling an amendment to the Crime and Policing Bill so we can crack down on the use of AI to depict child abuse, and why we're introducing our new Cyber Security and Resilience Bill to modernise the law and keep vital services safe.
Josh Pentingsley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On October the 20th, a phone mast serving thousands of people in Hebden Bridge and Mythenroyd was removed without warning, cutting O2, Vodafone and 3 coverage. Residents were told they would be disconnected until April, and it was only through the intervention of Baroness Lloyd and I that a temporary fix was found after 3 weeks. Given the essential role of mobile services in our communities and the impact this impacted businesses, GPs, safeguarding and many more areas, our mobile phones have become a utility and they're regulated like...
Order. It's Topicals. You finished. Secretary of State.
Mobile services are essential to communities, and it's not good enough that the mast in the honourable member's constituency was decommissioned without warning. Prompt action by my department ensured these services were restored by the 7th of November. VMO2 and Vodafone 3 have assured us that customers will be compensated, and I'm sure he'll continue to champion their needs.
So, Secretary of State, Julia Lovett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's very tempting to ask the Secretary of State if she's on Team Wes or if she's on Team Keir, but from the sounds of it today, she's on Team 4% Kendall. But I'll ask instead about one of the Prime Minister's most cynical bloopers, mandatory digital ID. He says, the Prime Minister says that mandatory digital ID will curb illegal migration. By how much by the end of this Parliament?
I mean, I am proudly on Team UK, as are members on this side of the House. That's why we are focused on creating jobs and growth in every part of the country, backing Britain's best researchers and innovators, and modernising our public services using the power of tech, AI and digital ID. These are the British public's priorities. It's pity members opposite aren't focused on that.
Julia Lopez.
Team UK, not Team Keir, I understand. This whole mandatory ID scheme hangs on its promise to curb illegal migration, and the Secretary of State can provide no numbers on that, not a percentage, not even a range. Labour's already made employing Brits harder and more expensive, and now somebody will not be able to get a job if they resist a mandatory digital identity that will not stop the boats. Did the Prime Minister take this project away from the Secretary of State because he has no faith in her, or because she cannot bear to repeat his guff?
Digital ID so that we modernise the state and public services to better meet people's needs, fit services around them and help tackle illegal immigration, I think is what the British public wants and needs to see. It is right that the Cabinet Office and my right honourable friend, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, is leading this vital cross-government programme. And I would say to the honourable lady, when this is implemented, when services are fitted around people, not the honourable lady is chuntering from a sedentary position, but it is precisely in order to modernise the state. Unless she's first focused on the future, her party will remain stuck in the past.
James Dees.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nottingham University announced last week that it is closing 16 courses as part of cost-saving measures due to limited research income making these courses less financially viable. What steps is the Secretary of State taking to make sure her huge R&D budget gets to frontline institutions and universities at the heart of our vision for growing the economy?
I'm very happy to look in more detail into what the honourable gentleman says. He knows our post-16 skills and education white paper sets out our vision and plan for universities, including record investment from my department into research and development and protecting the strategic priorities grant for STEM subjects. There's more we can do, and I'm happy to discuss it with him further.
Lisa Smart.
Speaker, Starting Point in Woodley is a social enterprise that works to tackle digital exclusion. They tell me that the lack of access to a device is a barrier for too many of my constituents. What plans does the government have to enable the refurbishment of government and civil service devices to make it easier for my constituents to get online?
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Lady raised a very important question about digital inclusion, which is right at the heart of the government's strategy. We just heard from the opposition that they're against digital ID and digitalising this country. I knew my answer would be popular, but I'm very happy to meet with the Honourable Lady to talk about that specific project in her constituency.
Marcus Campbell-Savers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the constant criticism of the Information and Commissioner's Office for weak FOI enforcement and sluggish decisions, why must Britain lag behind countries like Sweden and Norway, where citizens routinely access information in under a week? And how can MPs meaningfully hold the Commissioner to account?
Mr. Speaker, the ICO is operationally independent of government and is accountable to this Parliament. The Information Commissioner can appear in front of the select committees to discuss the ICO's performance, and I would encourage the select committee to perhaps do that.
Right, that completes questions. I'd like to welcome the Canadian Speaker and the ministers with him today. Right, we now come to Brian's question. Lincoln Job.
Number one, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Can I also welcome the Canadian Speaker? And can I also welcome Mervyn Kirsch to the gallery today? He's a member of our greatest generation, a D-Day veteran who entered Bergen-Belsen days after it was liberated. Mervyn is 100 years old. I'm lucky to have met him twice, and I know that it took him many, many years before he felt he could even begin to tell his story. And we thank him for his service and the story that he has told us in respect of it. As we mark Armistice Day, we give our eternal thanks to Mervyn and all those who served, and remember the extraordinary sacrifice of ordinary people who fought to defend our freedom. Mr. Speaker, the House will also want to join me in remembering Holocaust survivor Manfred Goldberg. He showed the most extraordinary courage to share his testimony, and in his memory, we must ensure that never again means never again. Mr. Speaker, I welcome the news that SSE have announced that they will spend £33 billion on clean energy projects in this country. That's a major vote of confidence in the UK economy, happening because of our decisions to embrace the opportunities of clean power. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Good job. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks about remembrance? I particularly remember in 1997 in West Africa, where I somehow managed to survive a bloody and violent attempted coup. So if the Prime Minister wants any ideas about how to do that, he only has to ask. The Prime Minister's questions last week was, Mr. Speaker, an absolute bin fire. So if the Prime Minister is indeed intent on promoting the United Kingdom on the world stage, please can he promise the House that he will never, ever, ever be away on a Wednesday ever again?
Well, it's always great to hear from the successor for Kwasi Kwarteng's constituency, Mr. Speaker. I'm very proud to represent our country on the world stage. Last week in COP, before that in NATO, and it's because of the reputation we've rebuilt over the last 15, 16 months that other countries now want to do trade deals with us and want to place their orders with us.
Sally Jameson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I also associate myself with the remarks from the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister will be aware of the campaign run by the trustees of the British Coal Staff Superannuation Scheme, which is campaigning to return the £2.3 billion investment reserve back to its members, 700 of which are in Doncaster Central. The Labour government delivered on its manifesto pledge for the MPS scheme last year, so will the Prime Minister also ensure that fairness and justice is delivered to the BCSS members at the upcoming budget, and will he meet with me and other Coalfield MPs to discuss further?
Well, I know how committed she is to righting historic wrongs for our mining communities, and I can assure her so am I. She will know we've already transferred £1.5 billion that was wrongly kept from over 100,000 former mine workers. Ministers, as she knows, have met the BCSS trustees on several occasions. The Industry Minister is meeting them later on today, and I'll make sure that she's updated in relation to that.
Can be made not the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate my party with the Prime Minister's comments about Remembrance Week, and also his comments on Manfred Goldberg and Mervyn Kirsch, who is in the gallery today? Mr. Speaker, this morning on the BBC, the Health Secretary said there is a toxic culture in Downing Street that needs to change. He's right, isn't he?
Mr. Speaker, my focus each and every day is on rebuilding and renewing our country. But let me be absolutely clear, any attack on any member of my cabinet is completely unacceptable. On the Health Secretary, Mr. Speaker, in relation to Health Secretary, he promised before the election that in the first year of a Labour government we'd deliver 2 million extra appointments. We didn't deliver 2 million, or 3 or 4. We delivered 5 million extra appointments. And today the Health Secretary is in Manchester, where he's announcing that because of the action he's taken to abolish NHS England, he's putting more people on the front line. He's doing a great job, as is the whole of my cabinet.
Mr. Speaker, what we heard the Health Secretary say this morning was that he wants to cut waiting lists, but we all know that there's only one waiting list that he really wants to cut. But the Prime Minister is not going to do anything about the toxic culture. This is his responsibility. Just last night, his allies accused not just the Health Secretary, but the Home Secretary and even the Energy Secretary of launching leadership bids. These attacks came from Number 10, nowhere else, his toxic Number 10. The person responsible for the culture in Number 10 is his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney. Does the Prime Minister have full confidence in him?
Morgan McSweeney, my team and I are absolutely focused on delivering for the country. And let me be clear, of course, Mr Speaker, I've never authorised attacks on Cabinet members. I appointed them to their posts because they're the best people to carry out their jobs. Mr Speaker, she asks about waiting lists. Waiting lists are down under this government. The number of GPs is up. Because we've scrapped NHS England, we're investing on the front line. That's what the Health Secretary is doing today, getting on with his job, and he's doing a very good job too.
Mr Speaker, I didn't hear him give full confidence to Morgan McSweeney, but the truth is he says these attacks aren't authorised. That means he's lost control of number 10, because that's where they're coming from. But the real scandal, Mr Speaker, the real scandal is that 2 weeks from a budget, the government has descended into civil war. Instead of fixing the mess they've made of the economy, they're all... Mr Speaker, they're all chuntering. These are the feral MPs that number 10 has been talking about. They're not my words. They're number 10's words, his words. But unbelievably, Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister's advisers have been reduced to briefing that MPs can't get rid of him, and I'm not making this up, they can't get rid of him because it would destabilise international markets. Why does the Prime Minister think that there would be a market meltdown if the Health Secretary took over?
Mr Speaker, this is a united team and we are delivering together. Look what we delivered. The fastest growth of the G7. 5 interest rate cuts. Trade deals with the EU, the US and India, all of which they oppose. We've delivered. And I can update the House.
If people want to audition for a pantomime, I suggest you go to the Old Vic.
Pantomime. Mr Speaker, I can update the House. The Bank of England has upgraded growth today. We've secured £230 billion of private investment. And just this morning, I thought she might welcome it, the SSE have announced £33 billion of investment in clean power. That's what this team are delivering for the country, fixing the mess that they left.
Mr Speaker, he's talking about growth and investment. While the Prime Minister desperately tries to cling on to his own job, perhaps he understands what it's like for all those people out there losing their jobs. How can he talk about growth? Yesterday, we learned that unemployment has risen to the same rate as it was in lockdown. 180,000 jobs lost, Mr Speaker. Why does the Prime Minister think that unemployment has risen every single month since Labour took office?
Mr Speaker, let me give the House the details. 329,000 people more are in work since the start of this year. So 329,000 more are in work. Of course I accept we need to do more in relation to unemployment. That's why we're transforming job centres, which they opposed. That's why we're working with 60 major businesses to tackle ill health in the workplace and invested £3.8 billion in tailored back-to-work support, which they opposed. I would also remind the Leader of the Opposition, Mr Speaker, that the average unemployment in the 14 years of her government was 5.4%, higher than the rate today.
Mr Speaker, we left employment higher than it was after the last Labour government. Let me tell him now, what is causing it is his disastrous budget last year. That is what has caused the increase in unemployment. And so, to be clear, for all those Labour MPs shaking their heads, it's last year's tax rises that have killed jobs, and that's what's going to trigger this year's tax rises. This is the tax doom loop, and there is only one way out of it, and that is to cut spending. So why is the Prime Minister instead offering welfare giveaways to save his own skin?
Well, Mr Speaker, I'll tell the Leader of the Opposition why we increased national insurance. It's because of the mess that they left the country in. The NHS on its knees. Now we've got 5 million extra appointments, waiting lists down and 2,500 more GPs as a result of our decisions. But it's nearly the one-year anniversary, but she still hasn't told us in relation to national insurance whether she agrees and admits that we should do it, or if not, if that's her position, how she would find the money that we raised in the budget. She's had a whole year to think about that question. Perhaps now she can give us an answer.
Mr Speaker, I wouldn't have made the stupid mistake in the first place of putting up the jobs tax and jobs. Since they came in, it's been disaster after disaster. The Deputy Prime Minister, the new Deputy Prime Minister, is clueless about how many illegal migrant sex offenders he's let loose. The Culture Secretary breaking the rules to give her donor a top job. Taxes set to rise even further. Unemployment at levels not seen since lockdown. And in the middle of it, a weak Prime Minister at war with his own cabinet. Mr. Speaker, it's not just him, it is all of them. There is no replacement, it is all of them. 2 weeks before the budget, isn't it the case that this Prime Minister has lost control of his government, he's lost the confidence of his party and lost the trust of the British people?
Mr. Speaker, the stupid mistakes were made over 14 long years. They broke the economy, and now they think that they can lecture us. And now they've got this unserious idea that they can find £47 billion of cuts without saying where they're going to come from. No wonder that's called flimsy. Meanwhile, we're rebuilding the country. Wages up, investment up, mortgages down.
Order. Mr. Phil. You are meant to be a senior person on this front bench. You're meant to set an example. It's certainly a bad one today. Sir Jean Joseph.
Mr. Speaker, despite extra government funding, adult social care services in my community are in disarray. My constituents are also facing a new fire risk because we don't have a fully functioning fire authority. This has all been caused by the dysfunction at Kent County Council because so many reform councillors have been suspended for bad behaviour. So does the Prime Minister share my concern that reform chaos is a risk to public safety?
My sympathy is with the people of Kent whose lives are being disrupted by the staggering incompetence of reform. Mr. Speaker, Kent County Council was supposed to be the blueprint for what reform would deliver across the country. Now we can see what that means. Cutting local services, raising council tax, failing to protect the public. That's all reform have to offer. Grievance, division and total incompetence.
Say David, leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the earlier remarks of the Prime Minister and say what a great honour it was to join the royal family at the Cenotaph on Remembrance Sunday to pay our respects to all those heroes who gave their lives for our country. We must never forget the sacrifice they made for our freedoms. Mr. Speaker, a great British institution is under attack from a foreign government. President Trump is trying to destroy our BBC, not because he cares about the truth, but because he doesn't want to get away with his lies. Trump has undermined press freedom in America. Now he's trying to do the same here, disgracefully egged on by the leader of reform. So will the Prime Minister tell President Trump to drop his demand for $1 billion settlement from the BBC? And will he guarantee that President Trump will not get a single penny from British licence fee payers?
Let me be clear, I believe in a strong and independent BBC. Some would rather the BBC didn't exist. Some of them are sitting up there. I'm not one of them. In an age of disinformation, the argument for impartial British news service is stronger than ever. And where mistakes are made, they do need to get their house in order, and the BBC must uphold the highest standards, be accountable and correct errors quickly. But I will always stand up for a strong, independent BBC.
David.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is right that the BBC's independence and impartiality are absolutely crucial. That's why we must stop President Trump from undermining them. But President Trump's not the only one, Mr. Speaker. The last government spent years undermining the BBC's independence and impartiality. They put two Conservative cronies on the BBC board. One has had to resign, the other's still there, but he's been repeatedly accused of interfering in editorial decisions and staff appointments. Robbie Gibbs should have no role in appointing the next Director General. And given the Royal Charter gives the government the power to remove him, will the Prime Minister sack him now?
Mr. Speaker, I certainly agree with the comment that the last government undermined the work of the BBC. They undermined pretty well everything they did in 14 years. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to go into the individual runnings of the BBC. I am a strong supporter of the BBC in the terms I've already set out.
Don't puppy.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, this is Care Leavers Month, when we remember the resilience and the brilliance of our young people who have grown up in care. And I was delighted to welcome a group of Southampton's care leavers to share their views with the Minister recently. But while this Labour government is taking real action to support care leavers, a Reform councillor has disgracefully described children in care as downright evil. Will the Prime Minister... He said it. Will the Prime Minister, and I hope the whole House, join me in condemning Reform's vile rhetoric, and will he reassure us that this Labour government will continue to support the protections and opportunities for all our care leavers?
Well, Mr. Speaker, November marks the first ever Care Leavers Month, and that is a time to recognise that every child deserves support to achieve their potential. And through our landmark Children's Wellbeing Bill, we're requiring every local authority to help care leavers find secure accommodation. It saddens me that the parties opposite voted against it. The comments about children in care being evil are utterly appalling. And now the member for Clacton has heard them. I'm sure he'll want to condemn them right now.
Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, I've only got 30 seconds. The Prime Minister has stated very clearly that he wants to close the migrant hotels by the end of this Parliament. Well, the Reform-led West Northamptonshire Council, brilliantly led council, will be issuing foreclosure notices on 3 migrant hotels within the next few days in response to grave public concern about the safety of women and girls on the streets of West Northamptonshire. Would the Prime Minister approve of us speeding up the closure of the migrant hotels?
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, we will grit the mess we inherited and close every hotel. At their peak, under the previous government, there were 400 hotels. Now there are only 200 remaining. But he says he doesn't have time to condemn the comments calling children in care evil. He's also not had the time, it appears, to condemn the racist comments of his own MP. Utterly spineless.
Jeff Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I visited the new diagnostic centre at Withington Community Hospital, and as well as the 85,000 new appointments it's going to create, I was really pleased to see the new solar panels and heat pumps being designed into the building. So in the week of COP, and can I thank the Prime Minister for his climate leadership and attending COP, in the week of COP, what more can we do to ensure that new public buildings have green energy designed into them?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I was very proud to attend COP last week, and the UK is leading on tackling climate change, delivering energy security and getting bills down and generating hundreds of jobs across the country. We're investing over £250 million to put rooftop solar on schools, hospital and military sites across the country, and that will deliver £400 million of savings to renew our public services.
Angus MacDonald.
Prime Minister, successive governments impose massive environmental tariffs on customers using UK-produced renewable electricity, but far less on imported carbon fuel mains gas. This is the main reason why those not on the gas grid, i.e. those living in rural Britain, pay a great deal more to heat their properties. Yes, renewable projects are important, but the huge environmental tariffs on our electricity bills are not fair. Would the Prime Minister acknowledge this injustice and commit his government to addressing this? Thank you.
Can I absolutely recognise the need to address the imbalance between electricity and gas prices? We are exploring options to create a fairer system, and I'm happy for ministers to keep him updated on what we're looking at. It's thanks to those levies and Labour's expansion of the warm homes discount that 6 million families will be getting £150 off their energy bills this winter. And I know that he will welcome the £33 billion in investment from SSE, helping connect clean energy to areas across Scotland where it's most needed.
Lindsay Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prior to the general election, the Health Secretary visited Amber Valley and declared it an NHS dentistry desert. Since then, I've secured £240,000 of additional funding, encouraged my constituents to access the 16,300 emergency appointments in Derbyshire, and last week secured thousands of extra UDAs. But there is more to do. So can the Prime Minister update me on the progress of the contract negotiations with the BDA and the timescale that the department is working to?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm appalled that we inherited such a situation where tooth decay is the most common reason where children between 5 and 9 are admitted to hospital. Every children's hospital under their watch, going in 5 to 9. I was very shocked when I heard this the first time at Alderhay Hospital up in the northwest, that more children being admitted to have their teeth taken out because they're rotting between the ages of 5 to 9 than any other operation. That was their record. They should just be ashamed of it. Ashamed of it. It's why I'm determined to rebuild NHS dentistry. I can confirm that discussions are underway with the sector, including the British Dental Association, on fundamental reform to the dental contract to get her constituents the care that they need and that they deserve.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Jehoot's pharmacy has been responsible for repeated closures, leaving staff unpaid and residents without access to vital medicine. Unfit pharmacy owners like Sarabjit Jehooti, who has severely neglected patients and staff in West Dorset and across England, should not be running our care system. Will the Prime Minister make time in the parliamentary schedule for emergency legislation to give the government and the regulators powers to pay staff, tackle improper pharmacy owners and directors, and make sure scandals like this can never happen again?
Can I thank him for raising this really serious issue, which has been raised by others across these benches on previous occasions, and it is a very serious issue. It is simply not right that customers and staff have been so badly let down. The Care Minister has convened representatives from across the industry to resolve the situation as quickly as possible, and I want to reassure him that we're working speedily to consider how to strengthen regulation of these pharmacies, and I'll update the House as soon as I can.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During the assisted dying debates, I and many others highlighted the importance of palliative care provided by hospices, but this vital work has been left reliant on donations and charity for far too long, and Garden House Hospice in Letchworth is now facing a serious funding gap. I welcome government investment in hospices, but will the Prime Minister consider broader reform to put hospice funding on a sustainable footing, and can he ensure ministers meet with me to explore every option to keep Garden House Hospice open?
I'm pleased to tell him that £100 million has now been passed to Hospice UK, so places like Garden House in his constituency can create the best environment to deliver care. That's backed, Mr. Speaker, by £26 million investment for children and young people's hospices. We're also investing over £3 million in researching palliative and end-of-life care through the National Institute for Health and Care Research. We're working on further proposals to improve the access, quality and sustainability of care, and I'll make sure that ministers keep him updated.
Rebecca Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask the Prime Minister for his help. It's been over 6 months since the Supreme Court ruling on the meaning of sex, yet public institutions are still knowingly and intentionally breaching the law. HMP Downview, a women's prison in Banstead, has 5 biological males in it. And if that wasn't bad enough, those males are mixing with the women in the daytime without adequate supervision. Will the Prime Minister ensure biological males are moved out of women's prisons immediately?
The Supreme Court ruling must be implemented in full and at all levels. She's absolutely right about that. She's raised these examples with me. I will make sure they're looked into and make sure she gets a proper reply in relation to the particular examples.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With miles of golden sand and a bucket full of memories, Rhyl has been attracting visitors for generations. After millions of pounds of Welsh Government investment and a £20 million UK Government Neighbourhood Fund, RIL is on the up. Yeah. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that only with two Labour governments working together can we restore pride in our Welsh seaside towns? Yeah. Join me for a stroll on our new promenade to see just what RIL has to offer.
Yeah. Well, that's a very appealing invitation just at the moment. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to be putting power and resources directly back in the hands of local people in communities like RIL. That £20 million can be used for issues that matter most to them, include revitalising their high street, a cause that I know is crucial to many residents, including hers. Just 1 in 14 communities across Wales is benefiting from the Pride in Place funding. This is the renewal you get with a Labour government working with a Labour government in Cardiff.
Max Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maternity services are a vital part of women's healthcare, but sadly too many women are being failed. At Cheltenham General Hospital, the Evita Birth Centre was temporarily closed for labour and births back in 2022. Last week, we learned that there will be no decision about a potential plan for reopening it until spring next year. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that 4 years is far too long to ask local mums-to-be to wait? And can he give me reassurance that a temporary downgrade that was made under the Conservatives will not become permanent under his government?
Yeah. I tell him that our starting point is that we must always make sure that every mother is heard, understood and gets the quality of care that is needed. The Independent National Maternity Investigation and Local Health Needs Assessment are due to report in spring of next year, as he says. It's right that the recommendations of both of them are closely considered in any decision for Cheltenham, and I'll make sure that he's kept updated as that rolls out.
Jim Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I say that I've long thought that both you and the Prime Minister would suit a magnificent moustache, and I'm sure you'd be capable of growing a better one than this. Many of us men in this House and outside are growing our tash out this month to highlight the need for our health system and men ourselves to address preventable and treatable conditions to which all men are vulnerable, including prostate cancer, testicular cancer and mental health conditions such as depression. Does the Prime Minister agree that the forthcoming first ever men's health strategy, soon to be published, must lead to a major step change in the way our country helps men stay well?
Well, as he knows, my #1 priority is growth, so I'm very glad to see his upper lip. He's obviously championing this himself. And can I send my best wishes to everyone growing moustache this Movember? It is right, Mr. Speaker, to highlight that men are hit harder by a range of conditions, including cancer, cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. And that's why our men's health strategy will set out actions to improve the health of all men in England.
Rupert Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Every week we hear of a brutal murder, rape or stabbing, far too often perpetrated by someone who should not be in our country to begin with. Does the Prime Minister agree that for cases where the guilt is so undeniable, the crime so monstrous, the evil so irredeemable, the reintroduction of the death penalty for both foreign and domestic criminals should be put to the British people in a legally binding referendum?
Can I first say that any attack is to be condemned, and it is absolutely right, and we're determined that there is a criminal justice response in relation to attack, however it's carried out and whoever it's carried out by. But reintroducing the death penalty is not the answer to this. It didn't work when it was in place. It led to the death of those that, in fact, turned out were innocent. But what we must do is improve, as we are, the criminal justice response in this country.
Kevin Bonavia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to pay tribute to a new veterans group in Stevenage called the Muster Point, founded by Stuart Mendelsohn and Steve Black. Last week, I joined them at a continuous 72-hour vigil at Stevenage War Memorial, where veterans shared stories of family and friends lost in war. But veterans deserve more than just our tributes. So will the Prime Minister commit to working with veterans in Stevenage and across the UK in delivering this government's new veteran strategy in full?
One of the greatest honours in this role is meeting and thanking our armed forces for their service, which obviously we've been able to do during the course of this weekend and this week. Our ambition is to bring the Armed Forces Covenant fully into law in the next Armed Forces Bill, and we will do so. We're also renewing the contract with those who serve through our veterans strategy, including Homes for Heroes, a new network of support centres connecting charities and services with veterans. And Labour patriots stand with all those who serve and have served our country.
Stuart Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And on that point, with the upcoming vote on the Northern Ireland Troubles Bill, 9 of the most respected and experienced generals of a generation have publicly attacked the government's approach on lawfare against our armed forces. They have said it will erode trust in the justice system and it is a threat to national security. As a veteran who served in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, does the Prime Minister think they're all wrong? And when is he actually going to start standing up for our veterans?
Can I begin by thanking him for his service to our country? And when former service chiefs raise an issue, we will, of course, engage with them. Of course, I respect their service and their views, and will do so. We are having to get rid of unlawful legislation and putting in place a system with clear rights and protections for veterans, and we'll continue to try to get that balance right.
Anderson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. 4 years ago, I brought in a private member's bill to ban the sale of wet wipes with plastic in. The last government dragged its feet. These wet wipes cause fatbergs in our sewers and millions of pounds on our water bills for all of our constituents and pollute rivers and seas. This government promised to bring in this ban and is doing so now. Will the Prime Minister join with me on celebrating a Labour promise delivered and share the message that we should always bin wet wipes and other wipes, not flush them?
Well, can I commend her? She's been a long-standing campaigner on this important issue, and the public is right to be furious about how the last government allowed sewage to pour into our lakes, rivers and seas. Alongside tough new powers to combat pollution, this ban will put an end to plastic wet wipes that litter our beaches, clog up our sewers and harm wildlife.
David Chadwick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Lloyds Bank have over 31,000 customers in my constituency, and yet many of those customers, particularly the elderly and the vulnerable, are struggling to get out their own cash. That's because Lloyds have closed their branches in Brecon, in Prestine, in Ustragunlice, and before the end of this month in Pontedower. That's despite making billions in profits and paying their CEO £5 million. Will the Prime Minister write to Lloyds Bank and ask them to keep that last branch in Pontedower open?
Well, I'm grateful to him for raising that, and I'll look at the particular example that he's raised. As he will know, we're rolling out hubs, some of them already in place and more to come, and I'll happily update him on where they're likely to be.
Final question, Richard Quigley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Following the work of our APPG for eating disorders, I was horrified to hear that 19-year-old Lily Cliff, who suffers from anorexia, has been placed on an end-of-life care pathway after Rotherham, Doncaster and South Humber NHS Foundation Trust obtained a Court of Protection ruling to withdraw her treatment. This decision directly contradicts NICE guidelines and the Minister for Care's own statement in September that eating disorders are not a terminal illness. Will the Prime Minister urgently review this case to ensure that Lily and her family receive the support they need and that Lily is given every possible chance to recover and live, and remind all ICBs, NHS and hospitals that suffering from an eating disorder is not a terminal illness?
Well, first, my thoughts are with Lily and her family, and the details he raises are really deeply concerning. I know he's raised this with health ministers, and I'll make sure he gets a swift response. He is a powerful advocate for change, and I share his determination that everyone with an eating disorder gets the care and the support that they need.
Let the front benches change over. We now come to the urgent question. Louis French.
To ask the Secretary of State if she will make a statement on the appointment of the independent football regulator.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2021, the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson set up the fan-led review of football and selected Dame Tracy Crouch to chair it. This led to a clear recommendation for an independent football regulator, which was strongly endorsed on all sides of this House. The previous government promised they would deliver this regulator, but they didn't, leaving fans in the lurch as a result. This government made it a priority and passed that legislation within our first year because we are fully committed to protecting football clubs across the country. To make that a reality, the Minister for Sport confirmed David Cogan as the independent chair of the football regulator on the 6th of October. David Cogan was the exceptional candidate, warmly endorsed across the world of football and by the cross-party select committee. As the House will be aware, the Commissioner for Public Appointments conducted an investigation into the appointment itself, which was released last week. I am pleased that the report does not question the suitability of Mr Cogan as chair of the IFR. The report also makes clear that I did not personally know about the donations to my leadership campaign at the time that I selected him as the preferred candidate. It also recognises that as soon as I became aware of these donations, I chose to declare them and chose to recuse myself from the remainder of the process. However, as I have made clear, I acknowledge the findings of the report. The Commissioner was clear that the breach around donations to my campaign was unknowing, but I recognise that the highest standards were not met. And as the Secretary of State for the department that ran this appointment, I take full responsibility for that. And it is for that reason that I wrote to the Prime Minister and apologised for this error. I will, of course, ensure that lessons are learned from this process with my department. Our focus now is to make sure that no fan ever has to go through what I and my constituents lived through in Wigan. Implementing this regime to help protect clubs in financial peril and putting the interests of fans up and down the country first is a priority for this government, and led by David Cogan, the independent football regulator, will get on with the job. We're here today debating process, but this is also about real-world impact. Fans up and down the country need us to get on with delivering on our promise and making a difference. This is for Derby County, Scunthorpe United, for Morecambe, for Sheffield Wednesday, for Wigan, Reading, Macclesfield Town and Bury. We're putting fans back at the heart of the game, where they belong.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Last Thursday, the Commissioner for Public Appointments